Before I buy or flip any dresser, I do a quick inspection that takes less than 2 minutes. And I gotta tell you, man, it saved me time, money, and a few major headaches. So in this video, I walk you through 11 key checkpoints I use to inspect a dresser in under 2 minutes. I'll show you exactly how I assess every dresser before deciding whether it's worth restoring or flipping. So whether you're into, mid-century, vintage, or even modern dressers, this simple checklist will help you spot hidden problems early and protect your profits on every flip. So let's start with the exterior. This is the first thing I check when I walk up to a dresser. The surface might be bubbling. You're gonna look for scratches and gouges. Obviously, that can't be deterrent from picking up a dresser because a lot of light scratches, even gouges, could easily be hidden and actually make it look really nice. You're gonna check for water damage on top and the lower side. That's a big area, like lower sides. Somehow people let these dressers sit in like pools of water sometimes. And I've gotten dressers where, I get it back and all of a sudden I see all this water damage on the side underneath and the sides are delaminating. So make sure you check for water damage too. So number 2 on the checklist is material check. You can look at a dresser and it just looks like solid wood. And to be honest with you, a lot of dressers are made of both solid wood and composite wood. Even the high-end manufacturers will still use composite wood and they'll laminate over that with a thin layer of real wood. So it's really hard to tell, what you're dealing with. But one of the fastest ways you can check is literally look at the back of the dresser, the back edge of the dresser. If you see composite material but you see real wood on top, then it's basically layered. And they sometimes do a dual layer. They'll put a real wood on top of that composite wood and another layer underneath it. So it appears when you look inside the dresser, behind the drawers, it looks like real wood, and on top it looks like real wood. But in between, it's sandwiched between composite wood. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, almost all these dressers are made out of composite wood, but you want to kind of get an idea what you're working with. Then you got the full solid wood dressers. Like 100% of the dressers will be solid, like oak or mahogany or something like that. And it's pretty easy to tell. But most all dressers, regardless if it has composite wood, it's actually going to have a real wood frame and carcass. If you make that of composite material, you're really dealing with a really low-end type of piece of furniture. The real wood dressers, or mostly real wood dressers, are going to have a higher perceived value. They're going to last longer, they're more stable, there's a better option to have. Number 3 on the list is hardware and pulls. Also, when you're looking at the exterior of the dresser, one of the big things too you're going to notice right away if it's missing hardware pulls. Drawer pulls on it, sometimes there'll be 1 or 2 missing. You got to be real careful with that because even though there might be 1 pull missing, you're like, oh, I can just grab another one. If you're dealing with an outdated dresser, it might be hard to find the pull to match that. When you have a drawer pull that has actually like 2 bolt patterns in it, that's the one to be cautious with because you don't know if the bolt pattern is going to line up. But when you have like a single hole and a single pull, those are much easier to accommodate because you can get a single pull easily without worrying about dimensions or anything like that. And you can get replacement drawer pulls online at Amazon super cheap. And believe it or not, even your big box store like Lowe's or Home Depot actually has pretty cheap drawer pulls. I bought metal ones for like $1.70 a piece or something like that. So it's not a huge cost. But when you're replacing 10, 15 drawer pulls at a time, that's going to add up and cut into your profits. So you got to be careful when you're picking out a dresser. If you're going to replace drawer pulls, how are you going to do it and how much is it going to cost you? Number 4 on the checklist is often overlooked even by professionals. I would assume that. And this happened to me, but you want to make sure that the top of the dresser is actually secure to the carcass. One of the biggest areas like warping or lifting around the edges and corners. Just be on the lookout that if the top is separating, you got to make sure you know what you're getting into there. Number 5 on the checklist is corners and edges. Pretty common. The dogs or animals will chew on furniture and cause damage, and it can be fixed. It just depends on how much you want to put into it. You can put quick wood on it and rewrap the corner, make it look like real wood, and it's all fixed and everything. Or you can just spot paint it with acrylic paint and fix it and it'll be fine. You just have to make sure that you're inspecting all these corners, chipped corners, chipped edges. Even on the drawers themselves, you'll find chipped corners. Number 6 on this list, on the checklist, is the back panel. There's a lot of times you'll find damage in the back panel. And again, that's not going to exclude you from getting the dresser. You just got to be aware of what's going on. So there's a lot of times you have huge holes in them. I've had massive holes in the back panels of dressers, or it's just flopping in the wind. And it's super easy to fix. You just put a couple zip screws in there and it's done. It's super easy to fix. Number 7 on the checklist is structural integrity. What you should do is put your hands on the dresser and kind of move it back and forth and see how well and how stable it is. And keep in mind what kind of ground you're on. It could be unstable ground, but you want to make sure that it's not swaying back and forth, that means there's some severe structural damage with the dresser. Go a little bit deeper into it and you take out all the drawers and find out structurally why it's wobbling back and forth. So you got to make sure that the legs and the joints are all, secure, they're not falling off. Number 8 on the checklist for the exterior, want to inspect also for any missing trim, loose skirting, or missing skirting. That could be time consuming. You might look at one side of the dresser and there's a piece of trim that goes from the back to the front, but you go to the other side of the dresser, you might not even notice that it's missing completely altogether until you get it back to your home or shop. Also, the skirting, sometimes these skirtings separate along the bottom or the top. They might come loose, or there might even be a piece missing. So just make sure what you're getting into and how you could fix it. Super easy without spending a lot of time or even money trying to replace those components. Once the outside of the dresser checks out, it's time to look inside. Now this is where most of the hidden problems show up and where you really find out what kind of work this dresser needs. So number 9 on the checklist under interior inspection is the drawers, the big one here. So you want to open all the drawers individually. Your initial check on this is going to be pull out the drawers one by one, know any missing or damaged drawer slides. You're going to know right away. Sometimes you'll see the drawers already kind of looking half tilted, half closed. So you want to look, those are big giveaways. So inspect under each drawer for broken rails or worn guides. Drawers is going to be your number 1 area where you're going to actually spend most of your time doing any kind of work. If you're doing any work at all on dressers, mostly there on drawers, it's usually the slides. And a lot of people do not know how to fix slides. That's why they get rid of these dressers. They have no clue. They don't want to deal with it. They just want it gone. They want to change the furniture. And so one man's junk's another man's treasure. And along with the drawer slides themselves is the drawer guides. Normally there's some sort of drawer plastic guide that goes on it. Those are actually really cheap to replace. You can get them on Amazon. They usually come in the same exact sizes, so they're pretty easy to come by, super cheap, and get like a pair of them for like $3. If you want to see exactly how I fix drawers like these on my own flips, I've got that step-by-step inside the ThriftHacker.com community. And while you're pulling all the drawers out and looking at them one by one, this is number 10 on the checklist, is actual drawer structure and build quality. So again, they could be made out of composite wood, real wood, or a combination of both. So even if you have a real wood, solid wood dresser, sometimes the drawers are typically solid wood, but sometimes they're veneer as well, as far as or composite wood. So that's the bottoms might be made as something really cheap and they can fall out real easy. So just make sure that the bottoms are intact. And if they're not, what's it going to take you to fix it? How much time? So number 11 on the checklist is the internal framing and support of the dresser itself. So each time you take out a drawer, look at the actual frame of where the drawer came out of. It's not uncommon to have broken frames or support pieces. Don't be intimidated by the frame broken. It's super easy to fix. You can put glue in between and clamp it with a $6 clamp. It's super easy, but just be aware sometimes it might cause issues if a drawer is not shutting correctly because it's sagging or something like that. If you found my 2-minute inspection checklist useful, see how it all pays off. Watch my next video where I flip a $20 dresser into $100 profit.